Hi, Ron LeGrand here. Before we get started with the podcast, I thought you might want to know that I recently recorded a 90-minute online training about how we make so much money today in the terms business. That's on pretty houses in pretty neighborhoods, not the junk houses that we have to go rehab or wholesale. I go through step by step on exactly what I and thousands of my students are doing right now to make the fastest and the easiest money in real estate without using your money or credit. If you're interested in doing just that, go to thementorpodcast.com/free training. See you there.
Welcome to the Mentor Podcast, where the most highly motivated entrepreneurs come to get their weekly dose of financial stability with host Ron LeGrand, as well as other nationally recognized thought leaders who will teach you how to get, grow, and protect your wealth.
Well, hello, everybody. Ron LeGrand here, and beside me is Nikki Bialik. She is going to ask some questions today that you guys have submitted. We are on the Mentor Podcast. Now, Nikki, before we get started, I was just thinking, how long have you been at Global Publishing right now?
Oh, it has been 17 years and 3.5 months.
2 months, 3 months, whatever. Okay. It looks like you are standing outside. Where are you?
I am. I'm outside in my backyard. And if you people up north notice, there's no white stuff on the ground here in Florida. As Ron says, you don't have to live where it snows.
So today you're going to ask me some questions submitted by students. So my job is easy. All I got to do is answer questions, right?
Correct.
All right. Well, let's get at it.
So here we go with question number 1.
Okay.
Traffic in Minnesota, and it's related to trust agreements. Why are there notary stamps all over this agreement if it doesn't get recorded or seen by anyone else?
Okay. Well, first of all, they're not notary stamps on it. They're just a place for a notary to put a stamp on it. And it's not required because it's only going in your filing cabinet at home. But I just put it on there in case you wanted to get it notarized. It doesn't hurt anything, but it does give strength to the fact that somebody watched this thing being signed by the beneficiary interest. That's all. Probably would never need it, but it doesn't hurt to have it done.
Okay. So our next question is from Jerome in Pennsylvania.
Jerome.
And his is related to the business management training.
Okay.
Business management, it happens to be my very favorite, in case anyone wondering.
I hear that a lot.
Question. It's fairly long, so be patient, Ron. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
This is what Jerome says. I've always been in the mindset to listen to people that are not in the place that I want to be. In general, 80% of people will say you are mean for adopting this perspective. But
I thought he meant I was mean. Okay.
Yeah. But I
and they'd be
found
right, wouldn't they, Nikki?
Yeah. I don't know how they would ever conclude to that. They say they're mean for adopting that perspective, but I find it to be quite productive. And it also helps me not to waste my time as well as other people's time. Only listen to the people who are where you want to be. It's that simple. The comment I really appreciate was the part about picking brains, because I myself have experienced this in other aspects of business. People ask to pick your brain and they don't want to contribute anything to you or your business. I really appreciate your perspective, and it's great to hear from someone as experienced as yourself. Any other advice on mindset?
Well, actually, Jerome, you're kind of got the right mindset as far as I'm concerned. In fact, I remember the only reason that I ever created my first course is because people wanted to keep picking my brain. I'd go to my RIA meeting and we'd have things where I'd show them what I was doing. I mean, 100 times people come up and ask me, how do you do this and so forth. I just decided to tape it. And that was the beginning of my career, actually. And today, to this very day, as Nikki well knows, and she's the same way, we are master pre-screeners. We only do business with people who want to do business with us. And we've learned to get all the other time wasters out of our lives the best we can. And I think that's a good policy without being nasty about it. But you get to choose who you want to work with, and you get to choose who you want to hang around. You go to bed with dogs, you get up with fleas, don't you, Nikki?
That is correct.
All right. Where's your dog at anyway? I'm surprised that.
Maisie.
Oh, God, I'm sorry I asked. Oh, look at that. Tilt your computer down so we can see. Hey, hello, Maisie. How you doing, Maisie? That dog looks like it ought to be in the Arctic.
She likes the cold. And for people who are wondering, she's an old English sheepdog.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, I hope that answers the question, Jerome. I'm in the same mindset as you are. And the older you get, the deeper that mindset gets. Don't it, Nikki?
Yes, actually, there is some thing to be said about getting wisdom with age.
I wouldn't know that.
The age or the wisdom?
Neither one, actually. Come on.
Okay.
Question. Your job's
So the next question is from Fernando in Connecticut.
Okay.
This is in reference to a Robert Allen interview you must have done.
Wow. That was a while ago.
Fernando says, I have found sellers always want some money. If they agree to a small amount like $1,000 to $5,000, the lawyer then insists on more money. How do we get around this when dealing with the seller's attorney?
All right. Well, first of all, I have no idea why the sellers and attorneys an issue with you, because they have no say so in it. They're just supposed to close on what's on the agreement. So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But a lot of houses across this country are bought without any money going to the seller, but only because they agree. We ask them, we usually buy with nothing down, okay? And they say yes. Well, if they say yes, it's none of the attorney's business. Actually, they're just supposed to create the paperwork. So you just got a hold of a seller's attorney who thinks they ought to, be almighty to the sellers. And you're not, anytime you're closing with attorneys and there's another on the other side, you're going to always, not always, but many times have issues with something they tell the seller. And it's true. Attorneys talk sellers out of a lot of deals because of all the things that can go wrong. So what I do with them, when I know they're going to go to their attorney, I just tell them, your attorney's going to try to talk you out of this, right? Okay. It's not their job to talk you into it. It's their job to talk you out of it. They're going to tell you everything that goes wrong. So if you want to have that discussion, I can tell you that right now. And by the way, when you're going to the attorney, if they try to talk you out of it, ask them if they want to buy your house. And if your attorney is that kind of an attorney, you need to get another attorney, period. And you know what? If you can't find an attorney that is user-friendly, just use a title company. Use a title company that investors use. That's better than trying to change people's attitudes all the time.
Okay. And then now Fernando has another question. This is in reference to the private lender website setup.
Okay.
He says, looking for ideas. How are people using it? I'm doing Craigslist ads and I send to potential targets. It is also in my signature page.
All right. Well, listen, to be honest with you, I don't think very many people are trying to use it. It's there. We have it there, but you do have to drive traffic to it, and then you have to follow up. But then the reality is you don't need it anyway. If you want to raise private money, you just need to start talking to people and asking them the simple question, do you have an IRA or any other investment capital you're not getting a high rate of return on safely? That's how you open the conversation. And then you explain to them what you do. And that, it's a lot easier to do that with people that you talk to and that are in your Rolodex than trying to drive traffic to that website to people that don't even know you. And if you're going to try to raise private money, you don't need that much money because you're always rotating it anyway if you're buying and rehabbing and retailing. So you just learn to open your mouth and make it a habit to try to work yourself into that conversation and deal with the people that you work with every single day that are trying to attract new leads that don't know you. But if you want to do that, all you have to do is learn how to drive traffic. That's the key. And Craigslist is probably the last place I'd go. I'd be on LinkedIn before I was on Craigslist with that ad. Here's a safe alternative to the stock market and a link. And that's really all you need. The truth is raising private money is about, this much of the business. You don't need to raise private money to go do pretty houses or any kind of terms deals. So why don't you learn the terms business, learn how to get people to owner finance for you or take over their debt. Quit worrying about getting private lenders. You just do that along the way And frankly, I'd go put something under contract and then try to get the private lender, give you a sense of urgency. And if you don't find one, just wholesale it. Okay, Nikki.
Fernando has another question.
Mm-hmm.
It's in reference to Ron's lesson on pre-screening. When dealing with sellers, sometimes they don't follow through on their verbal commitments.
No kidding. No way.
Yeah.
No way.
My deals have disappeared because their trusted lawyer is unfamiliar with creative financing structuring.
Yeah. All right. Well, first of all, I do not like that word creative financing. There's not a lot about creative about this. Owner financing has been around longer than I have. In fact, it goes way back to the beginning of the last century. So I wouldn't refer to this as creative financing, period, because people have no idea what that means. They actually think you got to be creative. Owner financing is very simple. You agree upon a price and terms, and the owner takes back a mortgage or a deed of trust on their house. Now, we're back to attorneys again. Again, attorneys do not make deals. Sellers and buyers make deals. When that thing gets under contract, the attorney's job is to close it. And I would make that very clear to every attorney involved in the process, especially mine. If my attorney's closing it, it's his job or her job to make it easy, not make it hard. So this is a discussion we need to have up front. If you've got any issues with this, I want you to bring it out right now, because the last thing I want you to do is sit here and talk my seller out of this deal. Now, you're not going to have that conversation with a seller's attorney because you can't even talk to them, but you need to have that conversation with the seller. They're going to try to kill the deal. I want you to know that before you even go to them. That is their job. So it all comes down to a clear understanding up front, which is kind of pre-screening, which I am a master at, aren't I, Nikki?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's another question from Fernando.
Mm-hmm.
This has to do with the monthly break-even analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And he says,
business management.
Correct. And he says, I'm not sure I understand this tool. Is this set up for comparing between deals or to keep track by month?
It has nothing to do with deals, Fernando. It has to do with your cash flow and projecting what your expenses are going to be for the month you're going into, not after it's over and you hope you made any money. It's just a place for you to jot down what your expenses should be based on what they were in the past. And then you know what your break-even point is. So now during that month, you'll know when you've arrived at that point. So that tells you when you're going to start making money, because what's in your checking account has nothing to do with how much money you're making. That could be money that's already spent. The bills just hadn't arrived yet. And if your checking account is broke, that doesn't mean you're not making money. That just means you're investing that money back in some way. So you need to know what your real expenses are, which include you. And that's what that list is for, is to list them based on your individual business. And at the bottom, there's a place for you to plug in the cash flow that you've been getting per month, which really all that matters. How much cash did I receive last month? And how much can I expect to receive this month? And you can see if your cash flow looks like it's going to cover your outgo.
Okay, so those conclude the questions from Fernando.
All right.
Now we're moving on.
Wins the prize for the most questions, doesn't
he? Yes. He and Marianne Nunes.
Huh. The
next student is John in New Jersey. It has a question about filling out property information sheets.
Mm-hmm.
He watched the video. I do have one question. You mentioned that the property information sheets are used for single family homes. I live in an urban area in New Jersey, and houses are multi-family.
Yeah.
Is there a different form for those types of homes, or can I?
No, you can use that contract. No problem with that. You can use the property information sheet. There's no problem with that. It asks the same questions you'd want for multifamily, except, you got to know down the bottom where bedrooms and baths, how many units, how many bedrooms and baths is in each unit, and so forth. And also, you can use the same purchase and sale agreement. Just one thought came to my mind down there where it asks for zoning. If you're buying a duplex, for example, you better make sure that you put in there that it's zoned for 2 units, because a lot of times people are selling so-called duplexes and they're really only one house as far as the city is concerned. I made that mistake buying a 4-plex one time. It had 4 meters, 4 kitchens, 4 everything, 4 2-bedroom apartments, but it was previously condemned. and I bought it as a fourplex. Well, I renovated it. Nice renovation, 4 kitchens. City came out and said, this is a beautiful single family house. Please remove 2 kitchens. Okay. So, and there's no way I could up that zoning. There's no way they would increase that zoning because it's on a small, skinnier lot. So anyway, you want to make sure that it is zoned for the use that it is represented when it's sold to you from the seller, beyond a single family house.
Okay. The next question is from Bradley, Texas. So his question is about lease options. Where can I get your approved Texas all-inclusive trust deed or wraparound agreement to use?
Bradley, have such a thing. I don't have an approved one, and I wouldn't give you one if I did have it. That is not your job. You are never going to fill out a wraparound deed of trust. That's an attorney or a title company's job, period. You don't even need to know how to fill it out because you're not going to touch it. Never do you fill those out. You fill out purchase and sale agreements, and that's it. And the attorneys or the title companies close with those other documents. So no, I don't have a wraparound mortgage for Texas or any other state. And when you have a professional closing agent close it, you don't even need to be thinking about that kind of stuff. They're going to pull out the docs and everything that needs to be signed. That's their job. Your job, go get a deal.
Yes. The next question is from Richard in Utah.
Richard.
His is in reference to buying subject to.
Okay.
At the December 2020 quick start, structured multiple wraps without knowing anything about the seller's finances or credit. It seemed it was the go-to strategy to take over the seller's debt. Yet, in the video training, Ron stated he would prefer to do subject to if the seller already had dinged credit. I'm assuming it must have been an arbitrary decision, not knowing the seller's circumstances.
No, it's not true. If I do subject to, I already know that the seller is a mess and they're never going to go try to apply for another loan. And that came up along the way, or I wouldn't have known it. I don't ask them, are you a mess? Okay, just for the record. It comes up along the way. Or if I'm dealing with the kids that inherited the house and the loan's in their parents' name, then I'd rather just buy it subject to. But that's the only time I'm going to buy a subject to. Any other time, I'm going to buy it with a wraparound mortgage or a wraparound deed of trust, depending on what state it's in.
Okay. The next question is from Caesar in Florida.
Okay.
Doesn't say where he is in Florida. And his is about transfer tax versus land trust. What is a grantor revocable or revocable trust / land trust? I don't know if I'm putting it correctly.
Okay. Well, first of all, I just did a podcast on that. It should be posted. So go back and get that podcast and that'll answer all your questions on it. Plus on our Gold Club site, there's a whole hour and 15-minute lesson on land trust. But a land trust is a simple entity. It's an entity that owns the property. That's all it owns. It does not have any kind of a bank account or any of that kind of stuff, no EIN number. And it consists of a deed that gets recorded to the trust and a trust agreement that goes in the filing cabinet. Now, grantor revocable is the technical name of that trust. Grantor revocable trust. We just refer to them as land trust. If your attorney don't know what a land trust is, tell him we're talking about a grantor revocable trust. And he certainly should know that. And by the way, if he doesn't, you've got the wrong real estate closing attorney. Go get another one. Or get a title. Well, what state was he in?
Florida.
Oh, okay. You can close with title company or attorney. I always recommend attorneys. But by the way, if you go on our website, there is a Florida attorney that I trained for a whole day. He's in South Florida. But remember, guys, everything is virtual today. It don't make any difference where the attorney's at because he's going to be communicating virtually anyway. And the attorney and the seller or buyer are never going to actually meet in a room. They just don't do that anymore. So any attorney is licensed in the state. And no matter where they're at in that state. So there's a Florida attorney on our website. There's 6 of them that I trained for a full day. And or, of course, they're not hard to find. So just ask around. If you ask real estate investors who they use, Well, most of them use title companies, but you won't have any trouble finding an attorney if you're actually looking for one.
Okay, and this next question is from Stanley in Michigan,
Stanley?
also about transfer tax versus trust.
Okay.
His question is, if purchasing the trust versus the property,
Yeah.
still eligible for the depreciation of the property?
Yes. Yes. If you're the beneficial interest of the trust, you get all the benefits as if you owned it in your own name.
Okay.
Something about transfer tax in there. If you buy the trust, there is no transfer tax. There's simply an assignment of beneficial interest from the seller to you. And the minute you report that, or when you report it to your accountant will then treat it as an absolute sale. And from that day forward, you get all of the benefits of the owner, including depreciation. And the seller treats it as a sale, and whatever cash change hands. I mean, it's like any other sale. It's just that you bought a personal property called a trust that owns a house. The trust owns the real estate. You own the trust. Your ownership is personal. The trust owns real property. But by transferring the trust, not the house, you avoid transfer tax. And in fact, you avoid any closing costs whatsoever. It's a simple transfer. And actually, I think there's a lesson on that on the Gold Club as well.
Okay, now we come to the final question, which is from Debbie Waters in St. Augustine, Florida.
Oh,
do you know her?
Yeah, I know her. Okay.
As a matter of fact, those of you that don't know, St. Augustine is a wonderful place. If I were coming to Jacksonville to see Ron LeGrand, I would certainly set a time to go to St. Augustine.
Oldest city in the country.
Yes. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So
come with money if you're coming to St. Augustine.
Debbie's question is, Dear Ron, she's so endearing.
Yeah.
The one greatest piece of advice you would give our students for forging ahead in these unprecedented times with regard to keeping up with their training, continue to work in spite of the economic shutdowns, and the outlook for the future?
Well, that's actually a good question. And of course, it's a loaded question. It's a self-serving question because Debbie's in our marketing department. So let's clear right now. Look, we got a lot of training. A good deal of it is free. So you just keep in touch with us on our website. I know that coming up soon in April, there's going to be a big 3-day real estate summit that we're planning. We're going to even give away a brand new car. I'm serious. It ain't a model. It's a real old classic car. We're going to be giving away one of those, and just a mountain of training on that thing at no cost. We do a quick start school almost every month. It's a 4-day event that I still teach. And in March, we're going to be doing a live one right here in Jacksonville, Florida. So if you get this message in time, this will be the first time we've done a live one since last March. But we're going to put humans in a room and actually talk to each other. We're not going to shake hands, okay? We're not going to hug, but we're going to talk to each other. And looking forward to doing the live event. And then, just keep an eye on our website. We got some really a great group of events planned, some free, some not free. We got a business management coming up. We got a great deal on that for you, which is an event everybody ought to attend if they want to learn to run a real estate business, because that's what that's all about. And I got a commercial boot camp coming up as well, which is 3 days of me talking about commercial properties, like what we're doing around the country with students. So, and we got a seller financing event coming up, 2 days with just buying and selling with owner financing, which I'm going to teach for the only time I'm going to teach it. And it is free. Now, business management there's a charge, but it's not that much. Seller financing is free, and quick start, there's a charge. And what else did I just say? I forgot already. Okay. The summit is free. So we got a lot of free, and we got a few that you'll have to spend money to get trained on. So, hey, we're doing everything we can to deliver all the message we can to you, or to help you get through this COVID thing and come out a whole lot better. By the way, my students, every time I talk to students, I'm telling you, 2020 was their best year, right in the middle of a COVID environment. So don't think for a minute that won't stop you. And I got another free thing that you ought to get into right now. That's a hour-long training session that I did online, and it's got Q&A after. And you go to thementorpodcast.com, thementorpodcast.com/PC for podcast, and register for that online training. And you'll see how we make money in the real estate terms business, because that's what that's all about, is terms, buying and selling on terms without rehabbing and wholesaling and all the costly entanglements, without raising capital and all that stuff, and without using your money or credit. So it's an event you should take in as fast as you can. So look, if you want to get trained, nobody better qualified than Global Publishing. And there's no person better qualified for me if you want to learn how to buy and sell houses. So, hey, get on Planet Ron. There's all kinds of chances to jump in for free, and then you can decide where you want to go when you see what we're all about. Okay, Debbie, does that answer your question? Okay, I hope. All right.
There's no part two. It was just that one solid question.
Okay. Well, I kind of like this. I think we ought to do more of these where we're answering students' questions, and I think it helps a lot of folks that are listening. By the way, guys, if you're not a member of this podcast, go join it. The Mentor Podcast. Get on it and register. Then you'll get notified, because we play it every Wednesday. But in addition to that, there's a bunch of really, really good podcasts already posted on the site. Go back and take a look. Pull down what you like. And just in the recent past, I've done some really, really cool podcasts. And for several of them, I'm just training, and several of them I interview other people, including my students. So I'll see you on the next The Mentor Podcast.
Hi, guys.
That's all for this edition of the Mentor Podcast. To connect with Ron and learn how you can attain financial freedom, as well as up-to-date strategies to grow and protect your wealth based on today's discussion, go to www.connectwiththementor.com.